Welcome to Table to Stage. So even though we're in a brand new year, I still somehow get to be Jordan Worma. And against all odds, I am still making this podcast happen. I hope you all had a truly wonderful holiday season and that your new year is off to a great start. Now, to kick off this year, I am going to share a conversation with a couple of guys who are always sticking their hands in the rear ends of their friends and doing all the talking for them. So, actually, that probably sounds dirtier than it needs to be. I honestly most likely intended that. So, not only do I get to start 2019 with a great chat about creativity, I also get to bring you the very first Table to Stage promo code. We're going to be hearing from John Bristol and Mike Finland of Elmwood Productions. So, Elmwood is a film production company that focuses mainly on puppet filmmaking, and they tackle every genre under the sun. Whatever you could think of, they've got something for you. Now, I've known about Elmwood for several years now, but when John appeared on one of my favorite podcasts, The Couch Grouches, I knew I just had to get him on my show too. So if you are currently an Amazon Prime member, you already have access to Elmwood's biggest commercial hit so far. It's a horror film called Head. Now, it pays sort of an homage to the campy slasher films of the 80s. And if you visit elmwood.vhx/products, you can receive some really deep discounts on their other great programs, including one of their newest, The Jungle Man, and the streaming series The Risley Brothers and Animal Behavior. So I haven't actually watched Jungle Man yet, so I can't tell you too much about that one, but I have seen the others, and I have no trouble vouching for them. I think they're really enjoyable. So the first 30 listeners to this podcast to use the promo code Table2Stage1 can get that discount on those titles. Again, that promo code is Table2Stage1. It's the numbers 2 and 1. If you enjoy the show, make sure you're subscribing and that you're leaving your ratings or reviews on iTunes or whatever your favorite podcast service is. 2019 really is the perfect time to let everyone know that your life revolves around the Table to Stage release schedule and that you've given all of your available stars to the pod. I've got some great guests lined up in the coming weeks, and I have plans to grow this thing a little bit bigger as the year moves along. I'm really glad that you've all been here for the journey, and I hope you'll stick with me as we go. So the Patreon page is still up. So now is a good time to make those plans to throw all of your tax refund money in there and make all of your dreams come true. But for now, here are John and Mike from Elmwood Productions.
I was born in New Britain Hospital.
Okay.
And
That's
raised
specific.
Yeah,
All right.
raised in Bristol my whole life, pretty much.
Okay.
Just moved back from Salem. We lived there for 9 months, Salem, Mass, and now I'm back.
All right.
I was raised in Elmwood, Connecticut.
Okay.
Which is
Coincidental.
The bad side of the tracks of West Hartford,
All
if
right.
there is such a thing. If you're from West Hartford and you don't like Elmwood people, it's like you're
Okay.
the outsiders, So I was born and raised there, and did some time in Florida, made my way back to Connecticut, bounced around Connecticut for a while, and now here we are in Bristol, Connecticut at our studio,
Okay.
which is where I live now too, not far from here.
And how young, how old, at what point in your life did you both get started in the creative arts in whatever capacity it was the first time for you?
I mean, I've been there my whole life. I was fortunate. I have a brother who was 4 years older than me and was big into comic books and movies and
Okay.
music. And my mom was a musician and things like that. So it was always there for me.
Yeah.
Mike?
I mean, yeah, I feel like I was kind of born into it, too. My family, my mom, my granny, all of them, they were kind of painters and even my sister was always very creative and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and read to me and
Yeah.
showed me pictures and paintings and drawings. And
Yeah, I don't remember
all
a
that good
time where
stuff.
there wasn't something creative going on. I got right into cartooning when I was a kid, drawing everything and playing with puppets.
What
and,
kind of stuff did you draw?
Oh, man, I can remember being in kindergarten and drawing. They'd give you that piece of paper. I don't know if you guys had this in your schools. It was drawing page and then words in the bottom if you knew how to write. Kindergarten, you don't necessarily.
Uh-huh.
And I would just draw epic superhero things or Muppet things and then
Okay.
try and write my story. And I remember getting in trouble because the teacher would come and you'd tell her what to write. But I tried writing it myself, and she
Uh-huh.
was mad at me. Then she realized I spelled everything right, and she was blown away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then I had to go to the principal's office, and I thought I was in trouble.
Yeah.
But she was just so impressed she wanted me to show him.
Right.
And the whole way there, I'm like, I'm in so much trouble right now. Then he's like, this is fantastic. And I'm like, oh, okay, so I know how to read.
Yeah, right. Oh, wow.
So that was cool. So I was always really just interested in storytelling, though, and that is kind of not realizing it then. That's what it was, though. And,
Yeah.
Yeah, and all through school, cartooning and painting and drawing, and then
Okay.
later on getting into music.
Yeah. What kind of music? Because I know you both said that you have
I
played
mean,
in bands before.
My earliest stuff was like hard rock and metal. Like
Okay.
it was what was happening in 1988 and 89 when
Yeah.
I started doing it when I was 13, 14
All right.
years old, 15, 16, 17. You know, the bands I was in sounded like garbage versions of the Chili Peppers and Guns N' Roses. That's the
Okay.
best way to put it. We weren't good, but they were. You know,
Yeah,
so
right,
we
right,
tried
right.
to be that.
Yeah, we were never really good at what we did.
We had fun.
We showed
Yeah.
up.
Well, that's 90% of being in
yeah,
a
I'd-
high school band anyway.
Exactly. I'd probably say we were more like singer-songwriter stuff, but like a little heavier. Not
Okay.
so. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, completely different
What's-
generations we grew up in too. So
What's funny is on the Elmwood YouTube page, we have music videos that we've done for other bands. But to test out music videos, we found demos of my band, like right as I was getting out of high school, like 18 to 22, like that
Okay.
era. We took some demos of those and made music videos for 3 of those songs. So if you really want to hear like some garbage music, just, you know,
What was that like for you to
going back on
to,
it,
to match up that
the
experiment
voice of
from
me
high
at like
school?
18 versus the puppeteering of me at 30, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know, it was more fun than anything else. Like it's you know, you kind of the rose tinted glasses. You look back on it, you don't think about the fun you had, not the miserable things that went on. So it was
Yeah.
good. It was fun. You know, and the other guys that were in those bands, I like told them like, "Hey, I'm gonna do this. Is okay if I put them on YouTube when we're done?" And they're like, "Shh, the puppets are doing the music now. It's farther than our music careers went, so go for it." You know, like,
Well,
everyone had a good sense of humor about
Puppets
it.
had a good
yeah.
run in music videos there for
Yeah,
a while.
they still
Gen-
do.
Genesis.
Oh
and
my
all that
gosh,
stuff,
yeah. Every now and then there's still one that pops up somewhere, so that's good. But
So-
like, yeah, it was funny.
So when you were doing your cartooning and comic book stuff,
Yeah.
were you writing as well, or
Oh
just
yeah,
drawing? Yeah.
I was a control freak, so I was writing
Okay.
everything. I'm not gonna lie, there was that. I mean, Mike will even tell you, even in the Elmo stuff, I get control freaky.
was a control.
Still, I was saying, still get about the writing, not because I want it my way, but because I just want it good.
Yeah, he
And
wants
even
it to go well.
Back then with the writing, it was great because I loved drawing and I loved writing, so it was a perfect combination of the two. And even when we
Sure.
were doing the comic stuff, I had some buddies who were helping me, but I was always the guy who ended up drawing it all
Yeah.
because they couldn't draw.
Okay.
And I mean, I was never fantastic, but I was good. My influences were there, and I wore them proudly on my sleeve.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, so.
Mike, did you ever do any writing at all? No.
God no.
All right.
You wrote Bernice.
Yeah, and look at that.
What about performing? Did you guys, outside of bands, garage bands or whatever, did
Yeah,
you ever
I-
do any performing other than with puppets?
I did the theater stuff a little bit here and there as a kid, a couple plays and stuff, but nothing made me go, "Oh my god, I want to be an actor."
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
there was no. If I could put the 2 and 2 together when I was 10, doing the play in high school, junior or elementary school or whatever, and thought if I did this with a puppet, it'd be more fun. Maybe
Yeah.
I would have gotten a bite. But I just never. I think I did like a play in 6th grade, a play in some point in high school. I was in some theater thing. I don't remember exactly what it was.
Huh.
And then I did some of the stage work, like helped out with some of the sets and things like that. But
Yeah.
at that point by high school, I was so busy with bands and chasing girls and
Yep.
doing my comic stuff that I just
Yeah.
kind of didn't get involved. You know, like
And Mike, you never did any performing?
I was kind of forced into it. Some of it.
Yeah.
We did a lot of like nothing like really on stage or like big anything. You know, I made videos and stuff like that. When I
oh
was
my
little.
god, I have your video.
With a little, with my cousins and my sister. I grew up with all girls in my house, so
Okay.
like they were like, "Well, we need a boy for this, so you're in."
That happens forever in anything
Yeah.
now. Like,
Yep.
there's no men here. We
See, that
Yeah.
our problem with Elmwood is we struggle to keep women around,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty sure it's because we're all hideous chuds. But No, it's just we have a couple girls that always work with us, which is
Yeah.
great. But we're always looking for an extra female element because we don't want to do the Muppet thing where all the women are played by men for years.
Yeah.
And then there are plenty of women puppeteers. Don't get me wrong, but your most famous two Muppets that are women are Chicken That Clucks,
Right.
who's played by a guy, and Miss Piggy, who's
Frank
always
Oz,
played
yeah.
by a guy.
Yep.
So we always try to have our female roles played by female performers, but sometimes we don't have them
It
available.
usually falls through,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
But we have a couple that always work with us.
So
yeah.
what was it then about puppets
Yeah.
that made you interested in performing with them?
Yeah,
If
Mike.
you didn't have any
I
real...
didn't have to really be there at
Yeah,
all.
Mike, you go first. Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't have to be there. I could hide under there and
It's the hiding.
and
Yeah.
be
Is that what it
myself, but no one has to see me.
Yeah.
You're putting on a complete performance, and I always thought that was great. Like when you're an actor on screen, no matter who you are, they see your face.
Yeah,
Like, you could
yeah.
be a nobody, you could be Brad Pitt.
Unless you're Andy Serkis.
Right.
Yes.
But people look for his brand now too,
Yeah,
even in
that's
that kind of
true, yeah.
performing, But
Yeah.
like there's this like cool level of puppetry where you are anonymous
Yeah.
and you can get away with almost anything. Like I play Johnny Sojive on the Elmwood stuff, and there's this poet that he does these poems, and they're on our blog and on our YouTube page, and they're all raunchy and inappropriate.
Yeah.
Things I would never say in person to my friends and family, unless we're like in
Yeah.
private goofing around.
Right.
But he can talk about hoes and how girls only like him for his cable TV and his coke, and that's what the character is. But then I can also turn around and be, Steve the Vampire, and it's this insecure teenager who happens to be a vampire. It's like you can be that. You don't have to put makeup on. You don't have to have a certain hairstyle. You
Yeah,
can
yeah.
truly become that character, and then no one relates it to the person underneath. Even with the Muppets, you don't really think of Jim Henson when you think of Kermit the Frog.
Right.
You might be aware that he plays Kermit the Frog, but Kermit is its own
Oh, it's a
thing.
completely separate entity.
And that's what I
right?
love about puppetry is you can be completely anonymous yet still be known.
But was there something like an itch to do the performing that, like, even if you hadn't done it before, that once you found
Yeah.
the puppet?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Once
I
I got
was-
that puppet on, it was like even
Yeah.
toy puppets when I was a kid. It was like I'm getting a reaction from people out of this, and I'm not getting in trouble for being weird.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm putting this thing on my hand.
I always wanted to be the lead singer, but I never had the balls to step out on the
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah.
Now I can do it as someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. So is there like an element of just being afraid of stage fright, maybe, or just you've got this? You want.
I mean,
to be able to
I
do
know, I
something- yeah.
definitely have stage fright. I'm not one to get up in front of a big room and be like, "Hey,
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
right.
Mike. What's up?"
When
But if
we
I'm
do-
Schmutzy or somebody else, I'll be like, "Oh, hey, how you guys doing?
Yeah,
What's
right.
up?"
Yeah. That's true.
All right. So, what was it about the puppet? Was it something physical about the puppet that kind of drew you to it as a creative medium, or was it just something you had seen on TV, like Sesame Street? What was
Yeah,
it?
for me it
that
would be both.
Brought you to them.
Yeah, for me it would be both. Like there was as a child, I was a child of the 70s. I was born in 75.
Mm-hmm.
So I was there right when the Muppet Show came out. I was at the peak of Sesame Street, getting
Yeah.
super popular in the merchandising and all that in the late 70s. And I went to see the Muppet movie in the theater the week it
Yeah.
came out. I was
Yeah.
4 years old.
Yeah.
Like that was huge. Like so seeing that and knowing, and it hit me even at that age that somebody does this for a job. And I knew my dad gets up, goes to work in the morning, comes home from work.
Yeah.
Somebody did that to make these Muppet things, and that was like, why can't I do that someday? And that was the beginning of my puppetry thing. And then getting a toy puppet and holding a puppet, and then as I got older, learning how to make a puppet. The puppet aspect of it is really what got me, because you're creating something 100%, almost like above and beyond any other medium you can in theater, film, television, even in comic books, because it's tangible still. Even animation, you can't hold Mickey Mouse,
Right.
But you can, if you saw Elmo, you can actually high five Elmo in real life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's the same Elmo you saw on TV. If you're high fiving Mickey Mouse, it's just a guy in a suit.
Yeah.
There's this reality,
girl in a suit.
or a girl in
Yeah.
a suit. Yeah, I'm going with the Mallrats. It's just a guy in a suit. But I'm like, it's just like so. There's this reality to it, this weird skewed reality to it that I thought was really cool, and you can mix it up and do so many different things. And it hit me even like I was younger, and even when I first started building puppets, I'm like, I can get away with anything with this. I can.
Yep.
And I just building them was huge for me. Like getting my hands on it, taking old puppets apart, figuring how they were built,
Yeah.
and then building them myself, and then developing my own things, and that became the Elmwood things. Like that was, so it was the viewing of it, being excited by it, being like knowing that it was real. Like when you saw like Kermit the Frog on the Tonight Show, It was
Yeah,
still Kermit the Frog.
right,
You
yeah.
know, that was like, wow, Kermit the Frog is actually on the Tonight Show. He's hosting it.
Yeah.
You know, because Carson always
he
had
has a
guest hosts.
microphone. He has his
You know,
own
how
microphone.
weird is that? It's just weird. And I was always attracted to weird, too. And
Yeah.
like, puppetry is a little weird, for sure. Like, if you don't know anything about it and you walk into, like, this room we're in now and you see
Yeah.
this bunch of half-built hunks of foam and fleece, and then there's, like, a full-blown puppet with an afro next to us. Like, what is going on here? You know, there's this weirdness to it, which is a lot of fun
Yeah.
that you don't get with some art forms. And with a lot of theater forms, you're not going to get.
Yeah.
You know, theater takes itself so seriously sometimes. And, like,
Oh,
you know.
well, yeah, that's
And then you
definitely
throw
true.
a puppet on, and it's like, you can't help but have fun now.
Yeah.
I'd have to agree completely.
Yeah. You
Same thing.
just drawn to the sort of the
The
oddness.
aesthetic and
they-
the oddness.
The
and-
colors, like they weren't all, human flesh tone colors. There
Yeah.
were green ones, there were
Right,
pink
right.
ones, there was purple ones, and it was just
Yeah, that in and of itself is a little kind of unique just to puppets, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're never going to find another. Oh, maybe some cartoons now, but generally speaking, of a live action film or,
Yeah.
or an animated film, you're going to have relatively
Incredibles.
normal skin tone.
I'll use
Yeah.
the Incredibles. They're
Yeah.
Caucasian. They're Frozone
Yeah.
is a black guy. You know, you don't get a lot of that wildness that
Yeah.
you get with the Muppets because Bert and Ernie are orange and yellow.
But I mean, yeah,
Dr. Teeth is green with an orange nose, but he's a human.
your leading
you know?
puppet
Yep.
human character is going to be blue skinned
Yeah.
or whatever.
Right.
So, what is it you think about puppets that allows you to make that sort of creative decision that you couldn't get away with
You couldn't
in
paint a guy blue.
anything else?
Yeah, you
Well,
couldn't
the
paint
Blue Man Group might
Blue Man,
disagree.
right? But I don't know how well of a story they could tell, though. You know,
that's
like
true.
because you're going to be taken out of it by looking at this guy painted in blue. Playing music, though, that's part of the show.
Yeah.
But you're right. You know, so it's like I think part of it is you're already suspending disbelief going in.
Sure.
It's a whole new level. Animated, you're walking in expecting talking animals. You're expecting Bugs Bunny. You're expecting Mickey Mouse. Or talking toys with Toy Story, or you're expecting that. But with actors, you're always expecting reality of some sort, even if it's a
Right.
comedy. Jim Carrey, the ultimate rubber actor.
face. Yeah.
But he's still Jim Carrey. You put that green face on him for the mask. The only way it got exaggerated further was by CGI. You know, he didn't need that makeup to do that role. That
Right.
just was because it was already an existing thing. You know, you do it with a puppet, though. It's green. No one questions it. He doesn't have to wear a mask to be green.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's part of that. You're already suspending disbelief as soon as you walk in the door.
and you can use the story to kind of drag them in, and they don't even realize it half the time.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, well, Kermit's green, but
he's-
I'm not thinking that he's green.
he's a frog,
just,
so of
he's
course
just
he's
a
green.
character in the
Yeah.
story.
Or you look at like our movie Head, where the characters are all somewhat skin tone.
Well, that's what I was-
they're levels of skin tone,
I was
and
gonna
that was
ask
on
you.
purpose. Yeah,
Yeah. Some of them are very orange
Right.
in tone. Some of them are very, very
dark,
white. Some of them,
very
some are
white,
very
yeah.
dark.
Yeah,
But was that? And we'll get to that movie
Yeah,
later.
okay.
But just since we're on it now, like, was that a conscious thing that
It
you guys
was.
did going into it? We want these to be relatively human,
human-esque.
Yeah.
We wanted them. We didn't want to have a green character because we wanted to look like it could have been any actor you knew playing the part.
Yeah.
We wanted to build the actors. So, you know, that's one great thing about puppetry too is you can get any actor you want to be in your movie as long as you can build them.
Right.
And you go back and you look at Head, and it's no secret that Bruce, the character Mike played, is based on Bruce Campbell. And if you look at the puppet,
Yeah.
right down to the blue shirt from Evil Dead,
Yeah.
he's Bruce Campbell, and we did that on purpose. Or Lenny is a combination of a buddy of ours named Joe and Tom Savini,
Okay.
the guy, the special effects guy. If you know like the special effects stuff, you know who Tom Savini is, you'll be like, oh my god, it's freaking Tom Savini. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
when people ask me that, I'm like, before I was like, no, it wasn't supposed to be him. You're just, and now I'm like, yeah, it was. You're right. You called me on it. Yeah, but we did that on purpose. Yeah,
Yeah.
we wanted human. Then you go look at Risley Brothers, the next series we did right after that, and both brothers are one's yellow, one's orange,
Right.
but they're the same pattern we did for some of the characters. You know, like so they're human though.
Okay.
Because we wanted that to be more cartoony.
Now, when you're deciding on the characters that you want, excuse me,
It's okay.
you're deciding on the characters you want. The color that character is going to be is one factor,
Mhm.
but what's the building process like for putting these things together?
That's more you. I'm not very good at the,
No.
the building process.
Mike built one puppet. We
Okay.
call him the walking derp. He tried to throw it away, and I still have it hiding upstairs. To
Oh,
get someday,
boy.
it's gonna
All right.
find its way out.
Yeah.
It's you know, the building it goes two different ways. Sometimes you build the puppet and you go, oh my god, I have this great idea for this character now.
Yeah.
When I see it, like sometimes that's the artist in me. I'll go and start building something and be like, oh my god, I can build this into a character. But when we start with the script first, you kind of look at, okay, who is the character? What did we write about? And very often when I'm building, I'm like, well, I thought about this person when I was writing it, so I'm going to build a puppet that's kind of looks like that. By the time we're done, sometimes it's something completely different.
Yeah.
But it's and more now than 10 years ago, we kind of sit down and look at them together. A handful of us will like, these are design ideas. This is the concept idea. What do you think of this puppet for this character, this puppet for that character, this design? And a couple of us have our say in what they're going to look like. Schmutzy's a great example from Risley Brothers, where the idea came from a guy we knew. Just talked like that. Talked to himself all the time, mumbled under his breath. Always had some schmutz in his mustache. That's where Schmutzy, the name, came from. Just a really unique, really bizarre, unique individual. Nicest guy in the world, but like he's just... all of his wires don't cross sometimes. And I'm saying this, like, if he hears this, he's going to be laughing. He's not going to be offended because he knows this. And like, but I was like, I want to make a character based on this guy. And then we started writing Risley Brothers as a short film, and I was like, that's where I can put that character in.
Yeah.
And then I got his permission.
Oh, perfect.
And then I was like, can I make it look like you? And he was like, I'm honored. You do it. And the reason why he got the part is because he knew him too, and he used to goof on him, like making fun of it. He'd like mimic him, and the guy would just start cracking up. It's like, Mike, you got to play the part now.
It's more of an homage to
it's
him
a tribute to the guy, and it's become its own character. But when we were building the puppet, we purposely looked at the guy and made it somewhat different.
Yeah.
Like that beard and that hair he would never have had that crazy. Like it wouldn't,
Oh, it's pretty out there.
Yeah, it's pretty out there. Like it's a Bob Weir out there, where he's where the real guy is more subdued than that look, but we went a little further with it because you look at it and go, how can I caricature this?
Sure.
So the design really comes down to who is the character and what can we make him look like, and then I draw it. I draw almost everything first. Going back to that cartooning background. Sometimes I'll draw something and be like, no, I got to find a puppet like that. I got to make that puppet, even for no reason.
Yeah.
Or I'll look at, like, we're doing a sequel to Head, and I'm designing the puppets right now. And
Head again?
Head 2. Give them head till they're dead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, more Head. I don't know. We haven't given it an official title yet, and we're not officially announcing it. It's our worst kept secret is we're doing a Head 2.
Yeah. Okay.
It's going to happen. We're slowly working on it. But there's this one character that I'm designing, and we've had 10 different designs that we've all agreed is fantastic. And then last week, a buddy of mine, I was looking at him, a picture of him, and I'm like, that's the puppet, actually. That's
really?
that character. Like, I looked at this picture of this guy I know, and I'm like, why haven't we thought? So I drew it, and I'm going to, next time we all get together, I'm like, this is what I want to do now. And then, again, another look for this guy, but we haven't built one yet, so it's not. But I think he's just got this perfectly smug smile for this character. And he's not a smug guy, but that smile is like, that's the puppet. That's the look. So sometimes you find that in everyday life. Like, even animal behavior, the John character looks like me.
Yeah.
The Bree character looks like my wife. And the Gabe character is our buddy Gabe. And, like, in Risley Brothers, Tricky is our friend Tricky.
Okay.
Like, a lot of times we look at the people we know, and we base a puppet on them, or we go completely out there and.
Now, one of the things the reasons I do this, where I go to everybody's spaces whenever possible, is because I get to see a lot of what
the
they
weird
do.
shit.
And one of the things that is very obvious looking around here is that your puppets follow a very similar pattern for the basic build.
Yes.
That's intentional, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. We have like 10 different head patterns and 10 different body patterns. For the human-esque characters, we try to keep it as simple as possible because it's relatable.
And what is this style of puppet called?
They call it moving mouth puppet or hand and rod puppet. Those are the two different names because you're moving the mouth by opening it with your hand.
Right.
Or hand and rod because your hand is in it, but a rod moves the arms.
Okay.
So those are like the two different names.
Do you ever work with different style puppets?
I mean, Schmutzy was
what they call a practical hand puppet, which is the hand and the head, then hands making the actual hands work, like a gloved hand.
Was that all you doing all that, Mike? Or was there another actor?
You have to have a backup
me
person.
And one of the hands, me and the left hand that was all me, and then I had a couple guys, or girls, whoever was there, pretty much
do the right hand.
Do the right hand for me.
We try to keep it one person specifically with the extra hand to help because you get a flow.
Yeah.
But depending on the set, depending on the day. But you generally had Gabe or Tricky.
Yep.
Yeah, or Rick.
I think I had Russ.
And Russ in the short film. Russ in the
yeah.
pilot, the Welcome to the Wooden Beaver, it was Russ the whole time, yeah.
Okay.
Because then you get that flow, you get that move. It's like being in a band, everybody knows their beats.
Of course,
And then we've played with marionettes a little bit. We haven't gotten too far into it. It's a whole different world. We've done stick puppets. We've done
marionette's got to be a completely different skill set from the build to the the articulation.
Yeah, we have a couple films in mind we want to do with that, just kind of branch out and show that we can do it.
Yeah.
We just haven't gotten there yet.
What is
timing?
What is it about the style that you use predominantly that made it the style you use?
I love that style.
Yeah.
Like the Muppet look.
I mean, it's a classic puppet.
Everyone
look.
can relate to it in modern times. That's what I mean. Since Jim Henson really invented the style, when you really think about it, there were other people doing moving mouth puppets before him.
Grover,
but he took it to the next level
Kermit,
with that look and using the TV as your puppet stage. Like he took it to a different level, and and his puppet builders too. And then I just love that look. I was always attracted to it and wanted to go. We purposely don't make them look like Muppets.
Yeah.
We avoid the different color noses and things like that, just because we don't want to be too Muppety. It's amazing how many puppet groups out there are just doing Muppet knockoffs, and it's so disappointing. It's one thing to attribute, like an Avenue Q,
right?
Yeah. You know, where you're leaning on it. It's another thing to just knock it off.
Yeah,
and I hate the knockoff thing. So we try to keep our stuff just different enough, and even gotten further away from it in some ways when you look at things like Head. You know?
Yeah.
But I just love the mouth puppet thing. It's just my thing. I'm most attracted to that style. Yeah, and I love doing it. I love being under the puppet. Yeah.
What are the other styles of puppet that are out there?
Now there's shadow puppets, which is like you cut paper, leather, whatever it might be, you're projecting with a shadow of the movement.
I would never have come up with that as a puppet style.
Yeah, it's which it is puppetry.
It's got puppet in the word, and it never would have occurred to me.
You've got that. We talked about marionettes. We talked about practical hand puppets, which is just similar to the moving mouth puppet.
Sock
what we do.
puppets. There's all kinds of stuff.
Sock puppets, stick puppets, rod puppets, which is just literally a rod that moves the puppet. And sometimes you have like a lever to make the mouth move. Or the rods make, so it's similar to a hand puppet, a moving mouth puppet or hand puppet. What else is there's animatronics, of course. You got your Jurassic Parks and your Yodas. Yoda is a hand puppet, technically, a moving mouth puppet with animatronics to make his head and ears and things like that.
Right. Well, in the good movies.
In the good movies, yes.
yes. He's actually there.
Where is the line between puppet and animatronic? There's got to be a lot of gray area there in the middle, right?
For me, when I think about it, an animatronic can always be performed live, or a puppet can always be performed live. So if you needed to script something and film it that day, somebody can put that animatronic puppet on, and somebody else is there doing the gears to make the eyes blink or the ears wiggle or whatever it might be, where an animatronic character is programmed and it only does what you program. Chuck E. Cheese is animatronic. Disney World, those are animatronics, where a puppet is Yoda, like we said, or Dark Crystal or Labyrinth. Those are an animatronic puppet. That's the difference.
So it's not size, it's not even
it's
movement,
about it's about the availability to perform.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's in my opinion. Somebody else could tell me I'm full of crap, but that's my opinion.
Is he full of crap?
Not on this one, but usually
You're fired.
So, as far as because in addition to being puppeteers, puppet creators, and actors, I mean, first and foremost, you guys are storytellers with all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So when you're going about telling a story using something that is like a prop,
yeah,
a set, it's a character of its own. When you're going about using a puppet to tell a story, what are some of the difficulties or differences between doing that as opposed to just telling somebody a story using your own face?
Yeah, your performing has to be a different level because you're doing it all with two parts of your body, your hands and your arms. So a lot of it is in the movement, the subtleties of how a puppet's head would turn or move or nod, show emotion. Like, if a actor is sad, they can get tears.
Right.
If they're good at it, they can make tears or they get the drops or whatever it might be. For a puppet to do that, part of it's got to be right in your throat and right in how you make the puppet move. So it's more difficult sometimes to get that range of emotions.
Yeah.
But if you're building up a character properly through the writing and things like that, people will, like I said, as soon as somebody buys a ticket to see a Muppet movie or a puppet movie or says, I'm going to go watch this on YouTube or whatever it is right now, they're willing to play the game.
Yeah.
They know. I'm in for this. I know that it's not going to be actors. I know I'm going to get some. So if they're smart, they're willing to suspend a disbelief. But it's definitely harder to tell a dramatic story or a horror story with puppets and as comedy, because puppets you can make them flip their arms and scream and it's funny.
Right. Yeah.
But
nobody takes it seriously.
Yeah, to show fear is a whole other thing. Yeah. So it's a different level of performance, and it's amazing. We'll bring actors in who've never puppeteered, but they kind of want to understanding the puppet, all the emotions in their face and their body language, and the puppet's just kind of standing there.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you got to feed that through, and and so it's a different thing, and as the puppeteers, as they get better at it, they start learning. Then they look back at their old work and be like, "Oh God!" But because it is two different things. Like if I was on camera to do all that, my arms would be doing everything, and my throat would be doing everything, and then I'd look at my face and my body language and be like, "Wow, that was terrible acting." Because I'm the opposite of that. I mean,
like Mike, because you do mostly performing with the puppets now, right?
Yeah.
So, what have you found to be the biggest challenges? How do you get that performance across?
I don't know. I don't know how the
It's
hell
an
I
instinct.
do it. Yeah, I came into Elmwood, and it was easy for me to do. It was very easy for me to do, and I've seen a lot of people come and go, and it's not really easy for them. I could not tell you.
Years,
I could not tell you what the heck it is.
Really?
There's some little spark in me that.
It's funny.
I just love to do it.
We were talking
Wow.
before you got here about how like we've had people come in who have never even acted, and they put a puppet on, and they nail it. Like they might not have the
Really?
technique, they're learning, but they get it right away. And then we've had people come in who've been acting for 10, 15 years, and
They can't
it
do
sounds like they're
anything
reading
with
off the paper. It sounds like they're just they just can't get the mouth movement, because there is a finesse to making a mouth move properly and things like that. We were talking about that earlier, and it's some people have it, some people don't. It's like playing guitar. Some people can do it. Some people
rubbing your
can't.
belly and patting your head at the
Yeah,
same time.
it's-
You know, it's,
Yeah.
Yeah, some people can
Some
sing and
people-
dance, some people can't, and it's
Right.
the similar
Yeah.
concept. It's
Is there one part of it that you find most people have the most trouble with initially getting into it?
probably flapping.
the lip sync.
Okay.
Yeah, because you're not lip syncing to like a pre-recorded track. The
Right.
puppeteers are doing the voice live 99% of the time, and a lot of times they'll forget to close the mouth, and it'll just be like, "Hi, how are you today?" And the mouth is never even closed. They've opened it and they close it at the end of the sentence. And even I'm guilty of that once in a while. But
Yeah,
as soon as I'm doing it, I'm like, "Ah, jeez, what am I doing?" Like you catch yourself, or not closing the mouth enough.
Yeah.
And people forget that. Like you're trying to put on the air of actual conversation, not the
Yeah.
air of actual conversation. So
It's funny. Like I remember some, as a kid playing with puppets or whatever, and seeing my kids play with puppets.
Yeah.
One of the things that I noticed is that, and I don't know if this is just unique to my family, but we tend to use the puppets, and as the sound is coming out, the mouth is closing.
well, it's that beat.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Absolutely,
instead
yeah.
of opening when it's supposed to, it's like you're
We
closing
always say
your
that
hand.
you're not always the mouth won't always open when they're talking.
Yeah.
Because you're hitting like syllables and beats, as opposed to just "Hi, how are you?" It's "Hi, how are you?"
Right.
So that "how" his mouth was shut half the time. Because it's the illusion
Sure.
of
Yeah, right.
conversation, and
Okay.
because they
It's-
don't really have lips to.
to follow.
to
Like our
manipulate.
mouths don't close all the way between every word, so
Right.
the puppets don't always too. And sometimes they will close all the way before a word, depending on how
Yeah.
many words and how fast you're speaking. There's definitely a rhythm to it. That's why I say sometimes musicians make really good puppeteers, because they can feel a beat.
Sure.
Yep.
Is that something that can be taught, or
Yes.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
It's we always say sit in front of the mirror, look at the puppet,
Yeah.
talk, lip sync the songs, and sing along yourself, so you feel it as you're doing it, and you'll it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and flapping, like he was saying, a lot of times people want the puppet's head to lean back,
Oh,
like
sure, yeah.
open the hand up, but I would say your head doesn't go backwards as you speak, your jaw goes down.
Right.
So you got to remember,
Oh yeah, you got to learn that.
drop the jaw,
Wow.
and it's not always easy with some of these puppets. They're tight,
Yeah.
they're small, or some you just can't. You're doing somewhere in the middle, but you have to make sure that eye contact stays.
Yeah.
So you have to remember to keep the head.
So
Kermit's a great example of
Yeah.
that, because he's just a glorified sock puppet. So
Yeah.
his mouth doesn't just go down when he opens; it's opening, but his eye is always looking at the puppet he's talking to.
Right.
And that's part of knowing where you're at all times.
Yeah. I hadn't ever thought about that, but it's not just a matter of opening and
Yeah.
closing your hand.
Yeah.
Right? Wow.
That's why you look at like a Yoda and a Kermit, and you see this great performance, and then you
Yeah.
go watch some of this stuff on YouTube, and somebody's awful. Because anybody with a video camera can make a puppet movie now if they want to,
Right.
and you will look at it, and you're just like, well, how come this looks so bad, but that looks so good? And it's not just about the quality of the camera; it's
Yeah,
the performance.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Now, what about? This is probably a can of worms we should
baited.
open.
Oh, here we go.
Ventriloquism.
I'm all about it. I can't do it.
It-
I have mad respect for ventriloquists,
Okay.
and most of them are really good puppeteers,
Jeff
because
Dunham.
Jeff Dunham is a perfect example of a
Okay.
really good puppeteer who's also a good. You could put Jeff Dunham on a movie set with
I can't believe
puppets.
how long he's been doing that.
I mean, I remember seeing him on the
Same
MTV
shtick.
half-hour comedy hour in like 1989,
Yep.
and he
Oh,
must have been like 25 then,
you mean the
and now
era
he's
was
got to
on
be in
his
his
peak.
maybe 18 to 25. He was doing the jalapeno on the
Yeah,
stick back then,
exactly,
and he's
yeah.
still doing it. Good for him. I mean, he wasn't even big until like 10, 15 years ago. So he was
Yeah.
doing it for like 15, 20 years
Yeah.
before he broke, like really big. He had a career, but like, I mean, you could probably put him on a regular puppet movie set. Put him on a Muppet movie set, he'd probably kill it, because his sync is right there with his
Yeah.
ventriloquist
I
dummies.
mean, I always enjoyed his puppetry
Mhm.
when I was younger watching him, more than I enjoyed the humor.
The humor, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of his jokes, I'm like,
Especially his old man.
The old man
yeah,
Walter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always thought that was pretty
I
well
gotta
done.
admit, Ahmed blew me away. like
Oh,
because
I'd
that was
forgotten about
perfect
that one, yeah.
timing. It was like that post 9/11, so you needed to
Yeah,
laugh
yeah,
about
yeah,
something,
yeah.
and he made the most politically incorrect character, and I was like, good for him for being brave.
Yeah.
You know, even
Yeah.
if it tanks, he gave it a shot, and
Yeah.
that character has dolls
Yeah,
and stickers and
people
has his own
love it.
cartoon. Like, holy crap, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think ventriloquism's great. It's just I can't do it.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
have mad respect for people who can do that. Like,
I put it into the same category as building the puppets. There's no way I could ever do it. No way.
I mean, that's a completely unique skill set,
Yeah.
though,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
the puppetry part of it is relatively standard,
Yeah.
I would guess. But
oh,
you
absolutely,
have
because
to-
you're just sitting still,
Yeah.
which is great.
But then you have to be able to keep
Yeah.
your mouth from moving while still making them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
It's
that's too much for me.
definitely
No.
mad respect.
yeah.
So, why Elmwood? Why did you start this company?
Why-
How did you
Oh,
make
awesome.
the decision?
All right, so I was
to
doing comic
jump
books.
into this?
I was doing comic book and cartoon stuff with my buddies. We were trying to like kind of break in with that. Been to a million comic conventions, showing my work and getting a little work here and there, and nothing was really coming of it. So we started like me and a few buddies. One of them's Pete, Tricky Luca, who's still with us to this day. Him and I were like plotting out ideas, and I was drawing stuff. We had this one comic we were doing about like just guys our age.
Mhm.
More of like a stand-up, more like a sitcom type thing, but in a comic book form.
Yeah.
About like 20-year-old guys, 23-year-old guys, or however old we were at that point, and the shit they go through. Stuff. I don't know if I can
Oh, you
say.
can say whatever you want.
The shit they go through at that age, but comically, and we were like, oh man, we should make a promotional film, like make a movie or something, like a half hour, and like 10 to maybe it'll help us push the comic and this and that. And then it was like, well, and they looked like us. The characters were designed to look like me and Pete and Dave and Edwin B. Funk and like these other guys that we knew. And we had a friend named Edwin B. Funk.
Of
yeah.
course.
And another friend named Itchy Latois, who's French.
If there's ever
Oh,
a name
God.
that lends itself to a puppet,
Edwin B. Funk would be it. So I was like, maybe we could. And then we were looking at each other and we were like, I don't want to act in this. None of us are. But me being, we were like, yeah, I guess we're not going to do that. And it was all around the fall. I remember it pretty vividly. It was all around the fall. And we were still talking about it here and there. And every year, me and Pete would always get our group of friends together and watch Muppet Christmas Carol.
oh yeah, that's
Because I'm
something
a
we
big-
do at my house.
Yeah,
too.
I'm a big Muppet fan, so all of our buddies would get together around Christmas.
I
and
am
we'd
here
watch,
for the food.
Yep. And we'd watch that, and we did like a round of like, I think we watched like Muppet Family Christmas and Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas.
Oh god.
And then a couple of the guys left to go pick up their girlfriends and stuff, and they were coming back so we could all watch Christmas Carol together, grab some beer or whatever.
Yeah.
And they left, and I remember looking at Edwin, and I was like, we could do that comic thing if we did it with puppets. And he was like, well, you always like puppets. Maybe we should do that. I like puppets. I like the Muppets. We can make
So you
puppets.
had never built a puppet at
I
this
built
point?
like one or two at this
Okay.
point for fun, like
Yeah.
like nothing I would ever show anybody, but goofing off with my buddies. And I had a couple puppets that we'd like take like to parties and like harass people,
Yeah.
like because it was just goofy to do that. But it was never like something I took seriously. But I had an aptitude for it, and I understood that like from the cartooning end, I had an aptitude for it, I guess. And then he was like, "Yeah, we could do that," and I was like, "Yeah, how hard can it be? It's got to be pretty easy to make a bunch of puppets that look just like these cartoons I've been
Right.
drawing." And then a year later, it was like, what cartoons? I'm making puppets all the time. Like
Yeah.
it just took over. And this is pre-internet. You couldn't go on YouTube and be like, how to make a puppet. It
Right.
wasn't like that at all. It was a completely different time. And there was still the internet. It was like 97, 98, so you
Yeah.
could still find some things, but it was more about finding books you could order.
Right.
And I got a couple books from there. Got a couple books in the library. And then I took a couple puppets apart and things like that, sort of figuring it out. And
For reverse engineering
Yep.
everything. Huh?
well, yeah, reverse
yeah.
engineered. I remember I have this Kermit the Frog puppet from the 70s. There's another one right up there.
I see.
That's
it, yeah.
not the same one I had. A friend of mine gave me that
I
recently.
used to have one like that.
But I had that, and I remember turning it inside out and tracing
Oh.
where the seams were to figure it out, how they made that. And it was
Wow.
like, all right, that's not how Kermit's really made, but it's an idea of how it's made.
Sure.
And going from there, but within like a year or 2 years, it was like, all right, I'm doing this now, and this is what I want to do, and I want to make films with puppets.
Yeah.
And took a short sabbatical for life in Florida for about a year and a half, and while I was down there, I spent that whole year researching and building and getting
Yeah.
to know puppeteers, and when I came back up, same thing. And I'd say by 2004, I came back up in 2002. Elmwood Productions was officially
That is the
founded.
same year I came back from Florida.
Oh, that's funny. No one wanted to be there then. Jeb Bush. No one wanted to be there. But in 2002, I moved back up in the fall, and my buddy Russ, who I was friendly with before I moved away, him and I talked about maybe we should work on a puppet movie together. And then I moved away.
Yeah.
I moved back, and the first time I saw him when I moved back, after he was like, "Oh my God, you're back," was, "So we doing a puppet movie?" Because he had the camera, he had the editing gear, he wanted to do it. He
Yeah,
loved
yeah.
puppets too, and it was like, "All right, we're doing this." And by the end of 2003, it took us a year, really. We started doing like a show that would have been like a cable access show that failed miserably, but it was worth a shot. And it gave us the gumption to go to the next thing. And the next thing became Steve the Vampire, which actually became like a breakthrough for us.
Wow.
Like people started paying attention to us like that quickly.
Yeah.
By 2006, Steve the Vampire was out there. And
So you've been making films since 2006?
2003.
Okay,
Yeah.
2003.
2006 is when it got serious. You know?
Okay.
But Elmwood Productions became the name in 2001 because we had a different name at that point for the comic thing we were doing. Then we changed it.
Okay.
Then it became the puppet thing, the same name. And then we found out the puppet group had the same name as us. Another puppetry group did.
Oh, really?
By one word differently. They flip-flopped 2 words. We were Fantasy Theater Productions. They were Fantasy Puppet Theater.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, it's too close. And the guy, I got to meet him, and he was so nice. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll change our name. And Pete Tricky, I was like on the phone with him because he was living in Connecticut still. And I'm like, this guy has the same name as us. Pretty much. He's like, why don't we just call it Elmwood Productions?
Yeah.
It's where we grew up, man. It's where the characters take place. And it was
Right.
like, yeah, I guess we'll do that for now. And it just
makes
stuck.
sense.
It just stuck. And
Yeah.
it's kind of catchy.
Yeah.
But that was really when we started making the films, and then as we were wrapping up Steve the Vampire, we were making a feature film called Josh and Todd,
Okay.
which those 2 things really kind of gave us the oomph to go further and got us attention. That's how Mike heard of us, because he saw our stuff popping up online all of a
right.
sudden, and we were getting some press and things like that, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Like, to be like a bunch of nobodies and just working hard.
Yeah.
You know,
that's cool.
And we got recognized, which was cool.
When did you come on, Mike?
2010, January.
Yeah.
I
So
remember-
you've been
yeah.
here a while. Then.
Yeah, I've
were
been here for a while.
We were shooting the last 2 episodes of Steve the Vampire in January of 2010.
Yep.
The last 2
Yep.
of the first run of episodes, and we had a puppeteer who was working with us who knew you through somebody else. And
Yeah,
you
and
had
I-
bugged him about
And
maybe.
I was like,
Hey, can I come hang out?
Can I friggin' meet these guys? I gotta meet these
Yeah.
guys. I gotta. They're
And,
the only people I know that are doing this
yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
And he wanted to do it. And this kid asked us. He was puppeteering with us. He was one of our. And he was like, "Can I bring these guys? Him and his friend." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's fine. I mean, they're probably gonna be bored to death because it's a
Yeah.
lot of sitting around and waiting, you know."
Yeah.
And I was in a grumpy mood that night. And they walk in.
It was, for me, it was a very Jim Henson-esque experience. I walked in, I was like, oh my god, this is it.
Like Steve the
This is-
Vampire. I remember like I hadn't been
this is
introduced to
it.
him yet, and he walks in with his buddy Nick, who also ended up puppeteering with us. He walks in, and Steve the Vampire was like standing with his legs on a chair, and I hear him go, "Dude, that's Steve the Vampire."
Like, I was like, holy shit, it's Steve. You think if I wave at him, he's gonna wave back?
Like he knew who the character was, and I was like, "All right, this kid's cool," you know. And then he was wearing one of those knit caps with the flaps over the ears, but it was Beaker's head. And I just remember going, "Nice hat,"
Yeah.
and you're like, "Thank you," like so nervous. I'm like, "What's this
Yeah.
kid so nervous about?" Like, and then like a week later, we were like
I
inseparable.
just wanted to be accepted.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then a week later, him and I would be like pretty much inseparable, which was
Yeah,
great. Like we
yeah.
just clicked by the end of that night. The right sense of humor was huge,
Okay.
and then we were gonna finish in 2 days. We did a day. It was a Friday night, and then Sunday we were finishing it. We were gonna be done. And at the end of the night, Friday, I'm like, "You guys coming back?" And he was like, "I don't know, maybe." Like probably nervous. And then Sunday, you were the first one there.
Yeah. I was like an hour
Sleep
early.
in your car in the
Pretty much,
street
yeah,
or something?
waiting for those tickets.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
So, and I mean, you guys got puppets on those 2 nights, though, those 2 days. So
Yep.
you can't come and not work. That's our joke. If you want to come and watch, we're gonna give you something to do.
Yeah.
You might hold the boom mic. You might have a puppet on. You just can't watch. You know, most people don't want to. They want to be a part of it. So
Yeah.
it's fun.
Oh, I'll bet. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't stop after that. I was addicted to
yeah.
it.
It was.
So you have tackled, as Elmwood Productions, you've got short films, feature-length film.
Yep.
Series.
Yeah, web series.
Couple series. Some one-off kind of short.
Oh yeah,
film
lots
things,
of those. Yeah.
Music videos.
Music videos. Why are you tackling so many different formats? And are these all puppet, or are you doing
All puppet.
All
I
puppet.
mean, we do stuff without puppets too,
Yeah.
but 99% of what we do, if we do it without puppets, it's because we're winding down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, oh, we need a break. Let's do something funny
Yeah, yeah.
without puppets, or for whatever. I mean, we haven't done something without puppets since 2013. I think it's been a while,
Yeah.
All right.
or a mixture.
And
even.
anything substantial or worth even talking about. Yeah.
Then I think the last time we did something without puppets that was just no puppets at all was Day Job, and I feel like that was 2012 or 2013
That was a long time
or
ago.
14.
wow.
It might have been 14. Yeah, it was probably 2014. So
That
it's
was a
been
while
4
ago.
years.
So you're tackling all these different formats.
Mm-hmm.
How many separate properties we're talking about here?
Well, the format question was first. We do it because it's how you tell the story.
Yeah.
We don't want to lock ourselves into just making feature films or just making short films. We have that, oh, this would be a cool story, but it would be better as a series. Or this would be a cool story, it's better as a movie and be one and done. But how many different properties? I mean, it's so vague because some
Yeah.
things cross over. Like we've got, Animal Behavior, Risley Brothers, Steve the Vampire. Those were all web series. Mr. Universe and Don is kind of a web series. We do one whenever we want. It's like a skit series.
Yeah.
Gamers was a series we did.
I think we just like to keep it really fresh and just something new.
Yeah.
And try every kind of.
We want to hit
spectrum
like
of
every
everything.
medium,
Yeah.
But
like every genre.
Your website
Yeah.
has more than 100 hours of stuff on it, doesn't it?
Yeah, our YouTube page has over 150 short films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or
that's-
150 videos. Some of them are
Okay.
trailers for movies. Some are trailers for the web series as
Yeah.
opposed to the whole web series. But yeah, like
it's so much, and this is all. This is all stuff that you've done since 2006,
we'll say 2004.
2007?
2004. We'll
since
start with Steve the
2004.
Vampire and say 2004. We
Okay.
shot the first one of those in 2000. Actually, we shot the first Steve episode in 2006, but so
Okay.
2006 forward, we'll say. So the past 12 years.
All right. Now,
Right? 2018,
Yeah.
12 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you were generous enough to allow me to watch some of this stuff
Nice.
ahead of time. So I want to talk about a few of those. I know
Cool.
there's some of the newer ones.
Yeah, it's what we're promoting. So,
So,
yeah.
yeah, so Animal Behavior,
Yes.
the Risley
yeah.
Brothers,
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
and Head,
Oh yeah.
The award-winning.
the award-winning Head. So, okay, Animal Behavior
Yeah.
it's funny.
Thank you.
It's generally for all audiences.
Right. It's,
yeah. So,
we call it family friendly.
Yeah.
It's not a G-rated show, but it's family friendly.
no, yeah, 8, 9 years old.
Yeah,
probably.
we say it's
yeah.
the same age group you'd watch Bugs Bunny or the Muppets.
Sure.
It's like that same, like the parents, there's jokes for them
Yeah.
that aren't so crude that kids are going to be like embarrassed or parents are going to be embarrassed, but there's stuff that's going to go over a kid's
Yeah.
head.
Yeah.
And then there's stuff that's flat out just for kids. Like
And-
when,
and
when Tugger punches Ripper out every time, it's definitely for little kids.
So this
you know?
is a story broken into 3-4 minute kind of vignette kind of things
Yep.
about a cat trying to kill his owner
Yes.
so he can steal his woman.
Right.
Just a typical
Typical day in
typical
Elmwood.
story.
You know.
Yeah.
How did
mean,
that come about?
The truth of the story was I'd gotten a new girlfriend, and she came over to visit, and my cat at the time was Tugger. I had Tugger and Ripper. They were actually my cats. Tugger was older and Ripper was younger. And Tugger got on her lap and she was petting him, and I reached over to pet him. And this cat was like one of the most gentle. He'd play wrestle and things
Yeah.
like that, but never a mean-spirited cat. And I reached over to pet him, and the reality is I startled him. He didn't see my hand coming. He was
Okay.
half asleep, and he swatted at me because he was like, "Whoa!" And then he was like, "Oh," purring away right away. But the joke, as soon as he did it, I'm like, "My cat's he's never done that. He's trying to kill me. He's trying to kill me so he can be with you." And she's laughing, and I'm like, "Oh man, yeah, this cat just tried to kill me. He tried to get all my blood out of me." So like and she's my girlfriend's laughing about it. It's funny. "Oh, your cats aren't trying to kill you." I'm like, "He's trying to kill." All night I kept making the joke. "Did you see the look he gave me?" Like he's asleep, and just like all night it was the joke. And then a couple days later, I mentioned it to Pete again. Like I'm
Yep.
like, how funny would that be for like a show about a cat trying to kill? And Pete said the exact phrase, "Your cat can't kill you, man. Cats are just walking furniture."
Walking furniture. Yeah.
And as soon as he said that, I wrote it down. And I'm like, that's the show. No one would believe this guy. And I started writing it, and then I pitched it to the rest of the Elmwood guys, and everyone's like, that's hilarious. And it
Yeah.
took us.
That's such something he would say too.
Yeah, he got he got a writer credit on that first episode just for saying that. I couldn't not give him a writer credit
Yeah.
because the joke was so good. I'm like, so it's written by Pete or John and Pete. I gave this the only episode I shared credit with because I was like, I can't not take that away from him. But that was where the idea just came from that, and then we actually shot the whole thing once and scrapped it. It
Really?
it just didn't
Like the
click.
whole series?
The whole series, 1.5 times actually. We shot a
Yeah.
bunch, then
and you went back and did it again.
tabled it,
The whole thing.
went back and shot half of that, and then finished the rest, and then edited it. We even screened it a couple times in front of people, and then looked back on it and went, something's not right.
You were nervous about pitching that to.
Reshooting it, yeah,
To
something
everybody.
wasn't right, and then we sat on it. We did Head, we did Risley Brothers, so we were sitting on this project for like. We call it the Chinese democracy of Elmwood Productions.
no.
Yeah.
Because we kept going back to it.
How many different lead guitarists did
Right.
you have come in on this
Well,
thing?
we had 2 different Rippers. We had 2 different Tuggers. We had we
Was
recast.
Buckethead on it at all?
Buckethead auditioned, but he wouldn't take the damn bucket off, so
Yeah,
the
okay.
microphone just
Yeah,
wouldn't
yeah.
get to his voice. We did have Bumblefoot though. No, I'm just kidding. Slash was pissed.
Yeah, I'll bet.
But we went through like this was the joke. It was because it took us forever to put it out. We were talking about it for years, but it was never coming out. We did
Yeah.
screen it. Like Guns N' Roses
Yep.
toured for the album, then disappeared for years, then
Yeah,
finally
yeah.
put it out 6 years after that. Like it was like that joke that it was our. And then finally not last year, but 2016, after we had released Risley Brothers. Was it after? Or no, we were dubbing. We had to do some overdubs. You always have to fix things in the
Sure,
edit.
yeah.
Yeah.
We were doing the final edits on No, it wasn't that. Was it Christmas Wishes? Yeah, we'd done a Christmas short.
During some
that
post
wasn't
of
coming
something.
out. It was 2016. We'd shot a Christmas short that wasn't going to come out in 2017 because you can't release it until.
Yeah.
But we sat on it for a whole year. But we were doing some post production on that in like January of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
2017, yeah. And I was in the car with him, and we were talking about how we have to redub the whole show and fix it. Like, we'll finally put it out next year. We'll finally put it out. And then I was like, maybe we should just reshoot it. We're better now.
Yeah.
Our technology is better. Our audio is better. Our camera gear is better. Everything about what we do. Our crew is better than we were when we shot that. The puppeteers were all better.
Yeah.
Do we put something out that's not as good as the things we've just done? Or do we redo it? And he was like, I'm cool with redoing it. I love playing Ripper because he played Ripper.
And he was like, "Oh God, that was so sad."
I'm like, thank God somebody agrees. So then I pitched it to Ricky, who produced and directed most of the Grizzly Brothers episodes, and he produced Head, and I directed that. So I pitched. We were dubbing at his recording studio. I pitched it to him, and he was like, "I'm all for it," because he didn't even work on the original one. He came in right as we finished it,
Okay.
and he liked it. So he was
And
like,
that
"Yeah,
was-
I'm
it
all
was-
for it." And I'm like, "I want you to direct it instead of me
Yeah.
directing it because I want to be under the puppets more." And he was like,
Okay.
"I'm excited to direct."
It was
more.
all over.
So he was all about it. And then I went to Pete Luco, who's my main guy, and I'm like, "What do you think?" And he's like, "Man, as long as I get to be part of it, I don't care what you do."
Yeah.
And it was like perfect. So that summer we reshot the whole thing, and we shot it a quarter of the time it took us to do the original one,
Yeah.
if not less, and it was 110% better.
Wow.
Like, we were all, when it was done, we were all just like, "Oh, thank God." Because if it was worse, we would have been pissed.
Yeah.
God, that's got to be
And
a
the
hard
original one,
decision.
it was
to
really
make,
hard.
too.
Because
Oh
how
my
do you?
God.
What's funny is I felt bad because a couple of the puppeteers who worked in the original one we didn't bring back.
Yeah.
Because they just didn't. They weren't up to par. Like, not to be like rude or nasty, but we're right up a different place now.
Just can you drop their names real quick?
Yeah, the, Buckethead, Bumblefoot, Duff McKagan,
goodness.
Stephen Adler.
Oh, boy.
No, I like Duff. But like there was just like this, so, and then we felt bad, and I went to a couple of them and said, "Hey, we're redoing it. Do you want to be a part of it?"
Yeah.
Before we recast, but you have to work twice as hard as you ever have, and they didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So it was better for it, So when we put it out we put it out in January of this year. January 1st, we finally released it.
Okay.
And it was this huge weight. Like, it was finally, this thing is out there. And
Yeah.
it's had a great response. Even the screenings we did when it was the old version had good response because people were in the moment. But I don't think it wouldn't have held up. People wouldn't be buying it a year later.
It didn't
you
seem
know?
finished.
Yeah,
almost.
it felt sloppy. It was sloppy.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. It was sloppy.
Okay.
And
Rushed.
It doesn't feel sloppy now. I
It
mean,
does- yeah.
I watched the whole series.
Yeah,
but
thank you.
Much more
it
happy
was-
with it.
Yeah, he played
Very
Ripper. I
polished.
played Tugger, and I played John, and it was just and you played Dr. Hovney, the therapist, in that one episode. So.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of fun with it, and it was. I think we had more fun shooting it this time too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So how did the Risley brothers come about? I mean, this is more of a
Riz is a little more adult.
PG-13,
PG-13.
bordering R, for
Bordering.
the,
We-
the,
we
the scenery more than the
Yes. All the glorious Heather boobs.
Yeah.
That one came about. We had this friend Jordan. His name was Jordan. Actually, he was a bartender, and I would hang out at the bar, which was next to the gallery that we used to hang out at. He was a bartender there, and I'd just be there having a beer, waiting for hanging out at the gallery, and him and I would and there'd be no one there but him and I for hours, other than the random crazy local that would come in.
Yeah.
And we just started laughing, like this would make a great reality show. We should just put cameras up here and like just joking around about it. And it was like, well, we should. Then it was like, oh, maybe we can make a movie about it, like do a short film. And
Yeah.
and it just kept getting pushed back because there wasn't like something that was fully fleshed. And then as time went on, it finally became an opportunity where we're like, well, what are we doing next?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it was like, well, we want to do this Risley Brothers thing because it was called the Risley Brothers. It had a different name originally, but we went with that.
Gutter Cheers.
Gutter, yeah, I think it's called Gutter Cheers. Felt cheers, but it was so and it would be so the puppet of Wes, the brother, looks just like Jordan. Like we
Okay.
made it look like him because he couldn't do it. So we wanted to do so it just kind of was like that natural progression. Like around the same time we started working on Head to actually make it with pups and all that, we had the idea to do this as a short film. But we wanted to get Head done first, and this
Yeah.
was like I always called that like the short film. If you watched it, I don't know if you watched the 30-minute short first.
For
Risley Brothers. There's like
Yeah,
a half-hour
yeah,
short,
yeah.
then the
Wel-
series.
Welcome to
the
the-
Wooden Beaver.
yeah.
Some of the voices are different. Some of the puppets look different because
Yeah.
that was like a test episode. I always call it the afterward to Head because it was the same cast did that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But some of those people didn't come back for the final show,
All
which
right.
was fine because that's just how those things go. The pilot always is a
pilot
different actor.
episode, right.
Mark Hamill was in the first episode of 8 is Enough, then somebody else played the part for the rest of the series because Star Wars happened.
Yeah.
So like you always sometimes change performers with that kind of thing. But we it was just an idea we had floating around forever. We tried. I mean, we had other writers try writing it, but nothing was working.
Yeah.
And then finally I was just like, what were some of those funny ideas? What were some things that happened, and how weird can we make this in some ways? And I started writing, and I wrote all but one episode. Another guy named Rick Corbo wrote the Halloween one where the devil comes. But he was part of our group. He was puppeteering, and he was a writer to start with, and that's why he wanted to work with us. And he pitched it, and we're like, that's perfect. We're gonna shorten episode. That's going to be an awesome idea. Let's go for it.
I mean, it's essentially a sitcom.
Yeah.
With puppets.
But with puppets, and that was how we pitched it. It's Cheers with the Muppets.
The episodes are shorter, right? I mean, they're, 10 minutes?
8 to 10 minutes.
Like
I think the shortest one might be 6, the longest one might be 12, but they're 8 minutes, 10 minutes long.
Yeah, so I mean, they're easily digestible.
Right, and that was the point. We didn't want
too short to suck.
Yes, another puppeteer once said that to me. It'd make it too short to suck. There's nothing wrong with a 5-minute or 3-minute short film.
Right.
Because cut out the crap.
Okay, so but as great as 10, 12 minutes might be, then you've got this 90-minute feature-length film.
Yes.
Head.
Explain Head to me, because this is a departure from the other stuff that you've done.
All right, so in those early years of Elmwood, going back to 2006, when we were just doing Steve the Vampire, we were kind of wrapping it up, and we were just going to be a one-off short, Steve, originally. It was a one-off thing, and that became a series a year later. But we were trying to figure out what we wanted to do. We knew we wanted to do Josh and Todd, which was a feature film we also did before.
Okay.
That was released in 2011. But we wanted to do... the genesis of the film was I came home from work one night, bored, living by myself, got a frozen pizza, 6-pack, and a bottle of Jack Daniels, and was like, what am I going to do tonight? Friday night, and I ended up watching Evil Dead 2 because I love that movie. I'm not a huge horror fan. I love horror films as a general, but I'm not like this guy who runs up to see every horror movie in the theater.
Right.
But I do love specific things in horror. And Evil Dead was something about those movies. And plus, they're half comedy. I mean, Army of Darkness is not a horror film in any way, shape, or form. It's an adventure comedy.
It's a bloody comedy.
Yeah.
Evil Dead 2 is this suspenseful, horror, gory comedy, And I'm watching that movie thinking to myself, why can't Elmwood do something like that? Why can't we? Because we were still in our early years, too. And I went to the next meeting, I mentioned it, and Russ was like, we should do a fucking horror movie. He lost his mind over the idea. And Jim, Jim Williams, he was like, I don't know, guys. I don't know if horror, I don't know puppets and horror. And I'm like, dude, puppetry isn't a genre. It's a medium for telling a story.
Sure.
So puppets should be able to do it all. And that's kind of where it began, where we want to try everything. We're going to do a romantic comedy someday with puppets. We're going to do it all.
Had there been a horror movie?
There had,
a feature-length
at that
horror?
point, there hadn't.
Okay.
So, and a buddy of ours who was writing with us was like, I want to write this movie. I want to write a horror movie, like this and that. I'm like, all right, great. You write it. And when you're ready, we'll start talking about it. And I want to say within 2 years, he took him about 2 years to give us a really good first draft.
Okay.
And then we had Head and it was called Leave. It was a different movie. It was actually a totally different movie called Leave. So we had Leave and Josh and Todd were both ready to go at the same time.
All right.
And as a group, we had to make a decision. Do we do the puppet comedy or do the puppet horror? We'd gotten a lot of goodwill from our puppet comedy at that point, especially with Steve the Vampire. Why don't we do the comedy movie first? And the kid who wrote Leave was furious.
Yeah.
And it wasn't ready. It needed more. So I'm like, okay, when we're done shooting this, and he's in the movie, which is cool. He understood.
Yeah.
But he was mad. So when we finished filming Josh and Todd, it was like, all right, now while they edit it, him and I, we'll do the pre-production on Leave. We'll get it going. And over the course of a year, it was supposed to be this little small, independent, cheap horror movie, like the original Evil Dead.
Yeah.
With no puppets. We agreed, okay, we'll have it all be actors.
Oh, this was originally going to be...
No puppets. We'll
no
do it with
puppets.
actors.
Okay.
Yeah, because we figured it'd be cheap, fast, easy, and cheap, And we started plowing away through it, and it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it went from being fast, easy, and cheap to this most convoluted, and the script wasn't getting finished. So finally I was like, you know what, guys? Y'all are... Because he brought in a couple of guys to work on it, and everyone's arguing with each other, and I was like, I'm not having this drama. Like, when you guys have a script that's ready, we'll film it. And I'll still stand by that to this day. If he shows up at my door tomorrow with a finished, shootable script, we're making that movie.
Yeah.
Like, I'll stand by it. But he didn't. And then... Not long after that, I was sitting in my studio with my computer, and it was snowing, and it was March, and I'm like, man, I still want to make that horror movie. And I wrote Head in a weekend.
Really?
I'm like, I want to write the one that I would have done. And I wrote the first draft over the course of a weekend and touched it up over the next couple of weeks. Had my buddy Joe do a little touch on it, another buddy, Brian, touched it up a little bit. And then we sat on it. So it was like, because we know what we were going to do, and that was like, everyone liked it. I mean, everyone got the email, hey, check this out. Everyone thought it was funny, thought it was cool, thought it was a horror movie.
Yeah.
I'm like, we'll do it. We can do it. And this is before I met you. We kept
this is well before my
pushing
time.
it off. This is 2 years before you. I wrote it in 2010. And we kept pushing it off for other things.
Yeah.
We wanted to finish Steve the Vampire. We wanted to do the first run of Animal Behavior that never got released. We wanted to do the show Gamers. So we kept pushing it back for different reasons, just because we didn't need to do it.
Yeah.
And then Mike and the crew came in. We were mixing up the team a little bit, and we hit a point where we had done everything now. We had this lull, and we were like, what are we going to do next? And he's like, what about that horror movie? Like, it was Mike. He's like, what about that horror movie? What about the horror? Oh, yeah, yeah. So we started, like, did a couple table reads, and we had some casting ideas. We even did some scout locating, and then it got tabled again.
Yeah.
The guy we'd actually wanted to bring in as the lead actor had passed away.
Oh,
and it was like, we don't want to do this right now. Let's do some comedy. Let's go back and be silly again. And then in 2013, it was like, all right, now, like a year later, it was like, now what? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? It was 2013, yeah. Because we shot it in 2014. So in the end of 2013, it was like, what are we doing? And he was again, let's do that damn horror movie. That's when we're like, all right, let's do it. So we did a quick retouch in the draft and went through with it. And then it ended up being a puppet film by the time it was shot. But it was all about just wanting to make a horror movie.
Thankfully, it ended up being
So how long are we talking about from concept to
release?
Yeah.
It was 5 years. From March 2010 to March 2015. But you have to remember, we weren't working on it every day.
That's like James Cameron Avatar.
Right, except he actually worked on it a lot. We had big windows where nothing happened, you know?
Yeah.
I'd always go back and look at it and sketch character ideas or costuming ideas and things, but it was never like every day
I'm
work
glad
for
we
us.
waited, though, because I don't think it would have been the same thing if we did it
We wouldn't have
5
gotten,
years before that.
if we put the movie out with actors, it would have never gotten the legs it had through film festivals and things
It would
like
just
that.
be another horror movie.
Another horror movie that's
right.
like a throwback to the 80s slasher style. And it just wouldn't have been as unique. By doing it with puppets, people paid attention.
Yeah, it had a very 80s horror feel to it.
It was definitely that Evil Dead, Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
You know, April Fool's Day. What was that one? My Bloody Valentine.
Sleepaway Camp. All
Yeah,
that
we
stuff.
were looking,
Right,
we were trying to go with that vibe for it, even with the cinematography and the sounds and the dialogue. It was when some people groan at some of the dialogue, that's on purpose. We want you to groan because it's so corny.
Yeah. Well, it comes across that way too, though. I mean, I think it's got
Yeah.
enough of that camp feel to it.
Yeah.
That it's set in a campsite, so that's perfect.
Yeah.
And it's available on Amazon Prime.
It is, and on Tubi TV if you're not a Prime member, and Tubi's free. So.
Oh, that's completely free.
Yeah.
You can get that
Ad-based.
on the Apple TVs and everything. I
Yeah.
watch it.
Tubi?
Yeah, I watch it like every other day.
I'm sorry. But we
I watched it on Prime. I mean,
Nice, thank you.
It was,
thank you. We owe you a nickel.
I think it's supposed to go the other way, right? Or
No,
we
we
get paid for it.
Well, one of the reviews said you should be paid to watch this on Prime, so it's pretty funny. But when we were making it, we were so jazzed up because we were making the first ever actual puppet horror film.
Yeah.
And then right as we're wrapping it up, Puppet Monster Massacre got released, which was the first ever puppet horror film. But I'm not dissing the guy who made it.
Yeah.
It's not scary at all, and the puppetry is awful. Like it was a gimmick for him.
All right.
Where with us, because he'd made some other horror films, like I will recommend Bath Salt Zombies.
Bath Salt
Oh
Zombies?
yeah, it's another movie this guy made, and it's exactly what you want it to be. You know, you can't take it seriously, and it's great. So I'm not saying this guy's work is bad.
Yeah.
But he went with the gimmick. We went with telling a really cool story, but the puppets happen to be the actors.
Right.
That's the difference.
No, you got this big poster
Yeah, the banner
in
yeah.
here,
Yeah.
and I see in the bottom left-hand corner of that poster lots of those little award symbols there.
Yeah, there's 9 on there, I think.
How did you get the awards? What are the awards? I mean, this went to festivals and
Yeah,
things like that?
we submitted to a couple festivals just as a fluke to see what happened because we were pretty happy
Yeah.
with the screening when we premiered it, and we started getting accepted to the festivals, and we were like, holy crap!
Wait, we have to go through with this?
We have to actually. They're actually going to show this in front of people now.
Yeah.
And I mean, not all those are wins. Some are accepted. You know, selection of. But we won.
That's less compelling when you put it that way.
Yeah. But we won. The one I'm really proud of is there's a festival in Ireland called the Yellow Fever Independent Film Festival. We got jury's choice, which means the jury liked our film above all.
Nice. Did you get to go to Ireland?
We
for
did
that?
not.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
Another one, Legless Corpse Film Festival in California. We got best. Was it best screenplay? What's this say, Mike?
Which one?
Winner.
Best
Screenplay.
Best screenplay.
Which is
feature.
funny because that's wrong because we didn't get best screenplay for that. We got best special effects. Ricky screwed the banner up. The award is right here in the room. We got best special
Ricky.
effects, but that's fine. We won a best voice acting ensemble. We a few. No, Legless Corpse we did get. Yeah, best screenplay. It was the Fantastic Horror Film Festival.
Yeah,
We
that
got,
was the
that's
special
Fantastic
effects.
Horror, best special effects. So I think we got 6 awards total by the time it was done, and which was
Nice.
neat. We went to as a group. We went to 2 festivals. We won nothing at both. Which was
But
fun
you
for
got
me.
the
'Cause I mean,
experience.
I mean, hey, we got free wine.
we got free food
beer.
and wine and got to
Yeah.
meet some cool people and see our film with an audience, which was
Yeah.
cool. And I don't do it for the awards. I do it because I want to make movies.
Yeah.
You know, so the awards is just a plus.
Well, that's really cool to be able to get into the festival.
That was what
at all, right?
blew us away. Is that when the the Fantastic Horror Film Festival was the first one that gave us an acceptance
Yeah.
letter, and we were like, why? You know.
Yeah.
But it's a good feeling though. Like
Yeah.
we were proud of it, but we
Yeah.
didn't know how it would play. to
Especially when
people.
you work so long
Yeah.
to make something like this
Oh,
happen,
yeah.
to get recognized
Especially
like
with
that.
like the practical effects, like
Yeah, we all know digital effects in that
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
the
you know?
puppeteering is all practical effects. All the blood is all practical effects.
And Mike did most of that actually. He was in charge of a lot of the effects for that.
Yeah. Yeah, the effects are good. The tree, I was watching on a smallish screen. I think I'm glad I was, because it looked...
The tree is creepy.
Yeah.
yeah.
It just fell not too
Yeah, with
long
the,
ago.
Was that shot in Connecticut?
that was shot in Bethlehem.
Okay. All right.
All the
Christmas
campsite.
Town.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a sequel. The all the campsite stuff was in Bethlehem. All the town stuff was in Southington and Plantsville or
Okay.
Plainville. So it was all in
Yeah.
Connecticut.
Oh, that's great. What other projects have you completed, if any,
Yeah.
that are still yet to be released?
We are actually sitting on nothing right now.
Nothing?
Yes, we this
Submit
year.
your scripts, people.
Right? We have a bunch of stuff written that we're shooting next year. Like
Okay.
we have a full slate of shooting for next year, which is
Yeah.
really exciting. We
More
purposely
series stuff? More...
Yeah, we're gonna do a little more Animal Behavior, another
Okay.
run of
Oh, good.
those.
Okay.
We have a new web series we're gonna start shooting in the fall called Defining Monsters that we're really excited about. It's about a monster hunter
Okay.
and her trials and tribulations, and so that's gonna be something. It's a horror
Yeah.
drama, not gory, but more in that it's a little X-Files inspired. I'd say Monster of the Week type thing.
Oh, okay.
But with a more moral undertone. What is
Yeah.
a monster?
Oh,
If you're hunting a
alright.
monster, what is who is a
Sure.
monster? So it's kind of a cool concept. So it's a moral dilemma along with a job she has.
Oh, nice.
So it's a neat concept, and we're working on that next. To shoot in the fall. What else we got going on next year? I'm drawing blanks. I'm trying to look at the cheat sheet I have
Oh, no,
hanging up
that's all right.
behind you.
I've been
We have a
away.
couple-
I've been away for a while. So.
Yeah, we have a couple one-off shorts we're planning. One's based on a live play that had been done in the past. It was a short film, and
This is 2019
2019 shooting.
schedule.
Some of it will come out in 2019 as
Okay.
well, and then some will be 2020.
Is this all going to be available on your website?
Yeah.
Part of your, because you have a subscription.
We have a subscription-based site, or you can buy per show.
Okay.
It's called Elmwood.
That's kind of neat to
I'm
give the
name
option
drop.
like that.
Elmwood.vhx.tv. It's a cool website. It's run by Vimeo. They
Okay.
own it. And you can set up your own network. Essentially, you can run it through the Roku box if you're a Roku or an Apple TV and things like that. You can download the app,
Okay.
and you can buy shows, rent shows, or subscribe to a channel.
Yeah.
We do both options because some people don't want to spend $25 a year for all of our
Right.
stuff. They just want to watch Animal Behavior for $5 or whatever
Right.
it is, and boom, watch that show.
Yeah.
And we can rent or purchase the shows, which is cool too.
Yeah.
And we have other filmmakers on the page too. We have a deal with UFO Films, also based out of Connecticut, and we have their feature film and some of their shorts. And early next year, we'll have. Just drew a blank on the name of his company. Our buddy Brian Spector, his films. The film's called Beyond Dreamland. The first one we're getting from him. We're gonna have it on our page as well.
Okay.
And it's, oh my God, Brian, I'm sorry if you're listening. I can't remember the name of your company right now. I'm sorry. He's probably laughing, like, of course you can't remember it. Yeah.
All right. So the one thing I do want to get to before we move on to the closing segments.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the accessibility of puppetry to people who have never done it before. Specifically, like building, like the actual art of constructing them and performing, because you've already told me
Yeah.
things I had no idea about for these things. So what's the process? How do people get involved in puppeteering? Like,
Why don't you go with that first, and I'll do the building part after.
Just ask, look around, find people.
yeah,
I mean, that's really all I did. Somebody was, I looked at his Facebook or whatever social media was there, and I was like, I have to meet these people. I have
yeah.
to do anything I can to meet these people.
So just reach out to somebody and
Yeah. My dad always said the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
of
So
course, yeah.
We're pretty wide open to people too.
Yeah.
Like I'll say, as a group, we have no shame and be like, yeah, come and hang out and see what we do. Sometimes we're like, no, not this week, but we not that we want to invite everyone to come watch what we do all the time, but if you're really interested, we have no problem with that. And if it's not for you, we won't see you again. If it is for you, come on
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
So yeah, and so getting involved in it is really just getting involved. And there are organizations like Puppeteers of America and local guilds, like we have the Connecticut Guild of Puppetry here. You know, look those.
Really?
Oh
Yeah, look
Okay.
those organizations up because they'll set you up with people too. The
Yeah.
guild's been really good to us, and Puppeteers of America has been pretty good to us too, like with helping us promote. The most recent issue, they have a magazine that comes out quarterly. They did a whole little thing on Head on it this year,
Oh,
which
wow.
was this
That's
most
great.
recent issue, which was really cool. And they were just about independent film and puppets on film, and they included us as part of
Yeah.
that, which is really nice.
What about for building? Is there like a book you recommend to people?
Oh, man.
Or is it all just YouTube now?
It's so much of it is YouTube now. I mean,
Yeah.
if there's some great puppet builders on YouTube giving away all their secrets, which is
There are.
awesome. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna, I always say the better, the more that's out there for everybody to see and figure out, the better everyone has to be.
Okay.
Like when you look at, if you go on YouTube now and look up puppets and puppet shows, you see a lot of terrible puppeteers.
Mhm.
Well, they're not going to go anywhere with it. It makes the people who are good have to be better to
Sure.
show you how good is good. And I think the same thing goes for building. Are there any books? I mean, there's a book, I think it's out of print, called The Foam Book. If you want to do this kind of
Okay.
style of puppetry, look it up. I think there's a DVD version of it as well.
Okay.
That was like the one that really got me started. Like, I'll give them a lot of credit for that. The secrets I didn't know, I learned from that book.
All right.
And then there's a website called Project Puppet.
Okay.
You can just Google Project Puppet. I think it's projectpuppet.com, and they sell patterns of that Muppet style,
All right.
and they're copyright free once you own it. You can't resell it, but you can do whatever you want with the pattern once you have it. You can use it for your films. You can use it to sell
Oh,
puppets.
that's great.
Just don't copy their pattern and sell it. And they're really awesome. Most of the puppets in Head were their patterns, and I even name dropped them in the DVD commentary. I was like, I just want to thank them because we made
Yeah.
those puppets so last minute
Yeah.
that I was like, all right, what patterns do I have? I don't develop something new. Let's just
Yeah,
boom,
yeah.
these can work, So
Okay.
where like if this puppet couldn't have been in that movie because that pattern didn't exist for that head, I created that
Yeah.
afterwards. Where this guy, the Jungle Man, is one of their patterns.
Okay.
So it's like I know people listening can't see it, but
What about like tools and materials? Is there like a cost?
yes, it's so subjective to
Yeah.
what you want to do. For our style of stuff, I recommend get yourself a really good glue gun,
Okay.
a very good set of
I
sharp
didn't know
scissors.
there was such a thing as a good
Yeah,
glue gun.
there is a good. There. I learned early on the difference between a good glue gun and a crappy glue gun, and I actually had a glue gun explode on me once, so I stopped with the crappy glue guns pretty quick.
All right.
And good set of scissors, cutting board, rotary cutter,
Okay.
polyfoam and fleece.
So it's all stuff you could get at Michael's
You can
or
go to.
Joann's.
I would
or
say
whatever.
Joann's is a great place to start, especially if you're just starting. Don't like a lot of puppeteers get so caught up, puppet makers, especially young ones, starters. Well, the Muppets don't use that kind of fleece. They only use Antron fleece that they hand dye themselves, and they only use Scott foam. And I'm saying the brands that are actually the ones they use.
Yeah.
So I can't use any of that. I'm like, you've never made a puppet.
Right.
Buy the cheap stuff and make some puppets. Plus, Risley Brothers, I'll use them as an example. None of that is the Muppet foam, is the Muppet fleece, and anyone who watches it thinks it is. So it's
Yeah.
about how you built it.
Yeah.
It doesn't. As long as you're building quality, you don't need. Don't get me wrong. We use plenty of that stuff. We do, and we're doing more and more and more of it as we go. But you don't always need to do that.
Yeah.
Kermit the Frog was not Antron fleece in 1970. There was no such thing.
Yeah.
So and the more charming they were in the 70s and early 80s is because you could look at it and go, I might be able to do that.
Yeah. All
So
right.
and the more expensive your product, sure, you buy a Les Paul, it's going to sound better than buying, a guitar at Target. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But if you can't play it, what's the difference? So learn
That's true.
and then
yeah.
spend the money,
All right. So we have gone well past an hour
Oh,
at
boy.
this point. And I do still want to get to my little closing segments
Okay.
here. So are you guys ready for some rapid fire
Sure.
questions?
Let me crack my beer for this one.
First answer that comes to your mind. These are not meant to be overly serious.
Okay.
Okay.
The best meal you've ever had.
Irish breakfast in Ireland.
Ah, sounds good. What was in it?
You had Irish breakfast sausage, black and white pudding, which is another kind of version of sausage, one made
Yeah, it
with
is.
blood, and
Mm-hmm.
French fries or chips, some rashers, Irish bacon, beans, toast,
I haven't had dinner yet. That
and
sounds
Yeah,
really
right.
and a nice thick pint of Guinness.
good. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a good breakfast.
Yeah.
Anything my wife cooks.
He's going
Oh,
safe
no.
answer.
Come on.
All right. Favorite.
No, really though, she's a great cook. So.
Okay. Favorite movie.
It's a multiple tie, so I'll run 3 off real quick. The Muppet Movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Under the Cherry Moon.
Okay.
I'd probably say a 3-way tie too. Muppet Movie, Evil Dead. I can't even think of the last one.
Yeah, I could throw Evil Dead too. I mean, it changes depending on my mood, so
Yeah.
but I'll stick with those 3 for now.
Yeah, Muppet Movie's a classic.
It's
I love that movie.
I don't know if it was Orson Welles, but somebody said that it was like the ultimate or the greatest piece of joy you're going to get in film. And I'm like, that's a great way to put it. It's just a movie that's fun.
Yeah, it makes
Yeah,
you
yeah.
smile for sure.
All right. Now, on the topic of Muppets,
Yes.
Waldorf or Statler?
I'd have to say Waldorf.
I'm going to
Okay.
say Statler. That was my
Perfect. And your favorite Muppet?
Gonzo.
Gonzo. All
Kermit.
right. Okay, classics,
really-
both of them.
Yeah, I mean, I love, for newer characters, I love Pepe, though. But Kermit
Yeah.
is my all-time Muppet.
All right.
We're both tattooed by those characters, too. So,
Oh, yeah? Let's see. One place you think everyone should visit before it's too late?
I'd have to say Ireland probably.
Before
Again,
it's too late, though. That's a good way to look at it.
because that place is, I mean, it's right by the ocean, so it's corroding like as we speak right
Sure,
now. You know?
Puerto Rico.
That's another good one.
Yeah, those are...
Yeah.
Just in general, yeah. Before it's too... If something bad
Right,
happens,
right.
yeah,
Yeah,
those are 2
yeah.
great, yeah.
Most memorable experience you've had either as a filmmaker or performer with a puppet?
Man, shooting at Risley Brothers overall, I'm not
Just
gonna
the whole-
lie.
the whole
like
series?
every day, besides the short film we started it with, but the actual series itself, every day
It was fun.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say either.
We tormented the director Ricky through the whole thing, too, which helped. I mean,
Sorry.
we all had that in common. We're gonna make his life miserable. I don't know if he realized we were doing it on purpose or not. But Ricky, when you listen, we were doing it on
the
purpose.
middle fingers alone thrown
Oh
at
my
him.
god! Like, and the ones, I mean, yeah. So that was so much fun, though. Yeah.
I'd say shooting Risley Brothers, obviously, because it's just
there was
so,
no stress
yeah.
other than for him.
Yeah.
I think going to the Museum of the Moving Image with you
That
and,
was cool.
and meeting Dave Goles, the guy that played Gonzo. Like
Okay.
I ran away and cried for a minute. Like it was.
I had to make him walk
Well,
up
he was
to the guy.
starstruck by you, I imagine.
Yeah, he saw us and he was like, "These guys."
Yeah,
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
that's cool. That's a neat experience to have had.
yeah, and he was a sweetheart.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, a place to go, Museum of Moving Image. It's in New York. It's
Okay.
Queens.
Astoria, Queens. It's, if you're a film, television, even theater guy, it's a museum just for that.
Yeah.
And they have a couple actual theaters in there. They screen movies every
Oh,
weekend.
that's great.
And they have a whole wing of the building that's just Jim Henson's life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's real Muppets in
Yeah.
front of you.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's really neat. Yeah,
Love to see a Fozzie or a
they had a Fozzie there when I went.
Rolf.
I think. They had a Rolf there.
They even
Yeah.
had.
They
a,
rotate it because they have
Yeah.
over 400 pieces, I think.
Oh, that's
from
fun.
the archives.
They even had a Yoda the first time we
yeah,
went.
Yoda's not there anymore.
You know, he's.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's.
They had Yoda from
deteriorated.
Empire Strikes Back there, and
Oh,
it was
wow.
deteriorating so quickly they took it off display.
Oh, man. That's too bad.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
All right. So the last thing I always like to ask everybody, and you may have just given it already, was a recommendation for somebody to try something that you've experienced recently that you think other people would enjoy. Could be anything. Doesn't have to be puppet related.
Okay.
An experience for someone to try that I've tried.
Recently, that's a good one. Being on the Table to Stage podcast.
I wasn't gonna say it, but
I'm glad somebody did.
Yeah, right.
That's-
I love doing this kind of stuff. So I'm glad you had
that'll
us
be
on.
my standard audio intro for everything now.
Being on this show.
I mean, I guess recently, moving away and not living at home and some stuff like that. I guess that could be something because I tried that and I enjoyed it, but
Yeah.
it's nice to be home.
Yeah, I've done that too. So have you, apparently.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Traveling.
Too much of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Traveling, I think, is a big one for me.
I got so excited when we bought the house I'm in now because that meant I know where I'm going to be for the next
Yes.
several years.
I don't gotta do nothing else now,
Well,
really.
I got married in 2015 and we bought the house in 2016 and I was dead set against buying a house. I was
Yeah.
like, no more freaking projects. Let's wait. We got married. That was a project itself. 2 years, 2 years, 2 years. And then she's like, I found this house. I'm like, fine, if you could go look at it. And
Yeah.
then she's like, come look at it. I'm like, we're buying this house.
Yeah.
Like it was, because it was perfect, but it was just like, yeah, totally.
Oh, that's
But
awesome.
someplace to go. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Something to do. I don't know.
Travel more. Spend your money.
Try
Don't save it all.
different restaurants.
Okay.
I love going to weird new restaurants I've never been into before.
Yeah.
It's so easy to go to hometown places, you know. It's so
Just try to, like a new restaurant. I always try to get the most unique thing on the menu.
There you go.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like
That's a good one.
something you just can't get
Anywhere
anywhere
else.
else.
Yeah.
You can get a burger anywhere, but
yeah.
that burger's got hot peppers from the other side of the world.
Yeah,
on
And
it.
a little bit of ostrich in it.
Yeah.
Yes.
How are you guys feeling right now?
Great.
Good.
This
Yeah.
was a blast. Thank
All
you.
Yeah, this was so much fun.
No, thanks so much for doing this. I
Yeah.
appreciate
Anytime.
it.
Yeah,
All
I'd do
right.
this again, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Can't
We'll
say that
come
about, I cannot say that about every podcast I've been on.
We'll,
so I'd be
we'll
happy
do it
to be
again
on.
next year after you've gotten through your 2019 filming schedule.
Yes,
and
there
you're
we
ready
go.
to start
Promoting that stuff.
everything.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks again.
Hey,
Oh,
thank you
absolutely.
so much, Jordan.
Thanks
Yeah.
for having us.
Woohoo.
So a serious and genuine thank you to John and Mike for coming on the show, and especially to John for sharing that awesome discount code. Once again, the code is table 2 stage 1. That's table the number 2 stage the number 1. If you go to elmwood.vhx.products, you can get some great discounts on some really great streaming content. And make sure to follow Elmwood on the socials mediums and see what they're up to. Also, don't forget to go on iTunes and leave those ratings and reviews, and to check out the Patreon page for more content. I'm hoping for some additional behind-the-scenes video in this coming year, so you can look forward to that. A happy 2019 to each and every one of you. Until next time, keep creating.